Hello, everyone, and good evening, and welcome to Vino and Chat. I'm your host, Sandra Meehan, and tonight on Vino and Chat, we are talking all around alcoholism and steps to becoming sober. And I know some of you out there are probably just shaking your head and going, oh my God, Sandra, what are you doing? The name of your show is Vino and Chat. For me personally, I think this is something that is really, really important that we share and we talk about, because it's a national, or not just a national, it's a worldwide problem. And addiction is in all forms of families, in all forms of whatever, whether you're rich, whether you're poor, it's there. It's like drug addiction or any addiction. So tonight we have the amazing Stephan Neff on our show, all the way from over the ditch, New Zealand. So don't hold that against me. And we will bring Stephan on. And Stephan, we've got an echo. Have you got any headphones? Do you have any headphones? Can you? That should stop the echo. Yeah, that's fine. We can. I can play around for a little while. So we've got some interesting conversations that Stephen's going to share. He's also written a book on his steps to becoming sober and the amazing life that he now leads. And as a father, as a man, as a husband, and I think it's a subject that we should not hide in the cupboard. It's not a closet problem, but where a lot of families do put it. We've all got skeletons and different things that happen in our families, and alcoholism is a problem. And I remember when my own daughter was little, and she wrote a letter to the Prime Minister. I'm not quite sure who it was. It could have been John Howard at the time, because she couldn't understand why they would allow to have the sales and ads of spirits and wine and beer on the TV. They allowed that, but they didn't allow to have cigarettes. And she couldn't see what the difference was, because she believed at that time, and that still does, that there is more of a major problem through alcohol because of the violence that sits behind it than cigarettes. Not that she had violence in her own family, but she had friends who did have it. And it's food for thought. So let's have a chat with Stephen. Can you hear me, Stephen? And the echo's gone. There we go. So I'm going to bring you up in 1, 2, 3. Here you are. Welcome.
Hello. Hello. You just make me run around a bit and find some earphones. Very, very intriguing. Is that what you normally do to your guests?
No. Oh, look, you're on Vino and Chat with Sandra, so anything's liable to happen. Anything, you never know what I've got up my sleeve. But what I do have for you tonight is one question that's not on your list. If you've lived in Germany, you've lived in Australia, you're now living in New Zealand, where else in the world, if you could, where would you like to live?
Whoa, that's a cool one. I am a writer, I'm an author, and I research my books very carefully. So since I do write about the First World War or Second World War, I would love to actually be in the places where I put my heroes. So I would love to play 6 months in the Normandy, Brittany, to write about D-Day landings, or Argentine. I would love to be there to write a book setting in a post-Second World War where all the Nazis fled into that area. So 6 months in Buenos Aires, thank you very much, would be lovely, with lots of gorgeous meat and learning to tango and doing all these kind of things. Oh yes, I thank you. You just put a lot of good ideas in my head.
I like to do that. Because I think it's important that we sort of just to warm up and we kick off and we just have a bit of a casual chat before we get into tonight's tonight's subject. And I see Angie Barrett from Over the Ditch is on, one of my good friends in New Zealand. So I do have a few, as I was telling you before we start. We've got a big following over in New Zealand, and I love the Kiwis. I love New Zealand, and I think it's one of the most beautiful places in the world, but it's too damn cold for this Aussie Queenslander to go and live in.
Well, I agree with you at all of that. Having said that, there is not much that can kill you apart from your own stupidity. So, therefore,
that's the best part. You can go hiking and you can swim in the seas, and you're not going to have to worry about snakes, spiders, or crocodiles and things like that. So
exactly,
it's a pretty safe spot. So, Stephen, thank you so much for coming on tonight and sharing your story. And as I said in the introduction, I feel this is a subject that's really, really important that we shed light on, and we open up the cupboard or the drawer or the whatever you want to call it, and start to talk about these problems, because we're all humans, and it's nothing to be embarrassed about. It's actually, I believe, something to be celebrated, that you've got past this whatever it was, whatever it caused it and everything, and you're now creating a life that you truly love, just not for yourself, but for your wife and your two beautiful sons, who are, as you said, are young men now. So I'm going to ask you, how scary, talking about coming out of the closet, was it to come out of the closet for you, to speak as a doctor who openly admits that he's an alcoholic?
It's probably one of the scariest things that you can do as a professional, to open yourself up that way. It is, I would have never done it. That's a really, really difficult answer to give, because ultimately it's so scary you want to run. You want to hide. You want to go somewhere in the fetal position. You would do anything but admit in public that you have got a problem. Because as doctors, as professionals, as men and women out there, we have got these masks on, and we hold onto these masks, onto these outer appearances with such a fervor, it's no longer true. And the moment that someone actually gives you criticism, we are quite strange beings. And now to come actually to a point in your life when you recognize that all these masks and all these appearances are actually hindrances to you becoming who you are. And once you are there to actually sharing that passion with other people around you, it is a huge, huge journey for you or for me to have arrived there. I was a what you would call probably a functioning alcoholic. So I held down a job. I could do most of the tasks in my life, sort of. But there were so many problems in my life, like resentment, anger, frustration, burnout, working all stupid hours in this life. And what did I do? Well, I didn't have the emotional maturity to deal with that in the way that I do nowadays. No, you come home and the first glass of wine is typically going down whilst you take off your shoes. And then the second glass of wine soon thereafter. And then after a few moments, suddenly there comes a sound effect mixed in. The kind of, when you relax, when you finally, that is good. And then comes the third glass and the fourth glass and so on. And the kind of leftover wine that never really materializes, that joke. It was very realistic for me. Fast forward now 7 years later, nowadays I live such a beautiful life without hangovers, without hiding, without doing all the things that I did then to assure that people could not see the real me. Now I live such a beautiful life. I want to share that with people. I want to be out there and actually say, hey guys, it is okay not to be okay. It is okay to admit that you're actually a bloody wreck, that you are a mess, that all that internet bravado, all the Facebook pictures that you put up there, always exactly the same kind of position, because you know that this is actually the nicest picture. This is I've got acquaintances on the internet. They look all the same. They're all like that, and it's oh, that's not you. That's not you, honestly. No. And by the way, put those half-pound makeup. Just take that off. That's so beautiful. The person that is underneath there, and now it is. Unfortunately, we are the keeping up with the Joneses is still there, and it's getting stronger. It's getting stronger with the amount of internet that we have, with the amount of us opening up our private life through cameras, through all those kind of things. We are becoming our own worst enemy, and alcohol is unfortunately a huge part for most people, or many people out there, to I don't know, portray themselves in the way they want to portray themselves.
Yeah, and just for those that I didn't actually introduce you because we sort of got a bit lost there with the sound and that. I just want to say that Stephen is an anaesthetist, an author, an alcoholic in recovery.
Yeah.
After studying medicine in Heidelberg, Germany, he travelled and worked all through Europe and Australia before settling down with his family in beautiful New Zealand. As a retired pain physician, he developed a specific insight into human psychology. As a man trying to drown his sorrows, he found out the hard way that critters can swim. I'm going to ask you about that in a moment, Stephen. But over the last 7 years, he's made every day a little bit better than yesterday. Today, Stephan is an expert in living a life so fantastic that alcohol has simply no role to play in his life. He shares this passion through his podcast, YouTube channel, and other social medias, all titled My Steps to Sobriety. I can't even say it. Sobriety. Must be trying to tell me something. In his book, My Steps to Sobriety, he shares the lessons he has learned as a doctor and as a man. And the truth is simple. The past does not equal the future. Every alcoholic can turn his or her life around, one little decision at a time. And in his book that's due to be released, I do believe next week, it's all in that, shows you how to do it. So that's Stephan in a nutshell, I'd say. And like living in Europe and Germany, and it's and even in Australia and New Zealand, alcohol is a big part of our everyday life. It's born into it, and we see our sporting stars use it. They're cricket stars. I know in Australia, David Boone used to brag as a cricketer that he would drink so many cans from when he left Australia to wherever he went, and they'd have drinking contests and that. So, and it's been a culture. It's set in our culture that if you don't drink, you're not a man, or there's something wrong with you. And I personally have a lot of friends that don't drink, and I think it's no different whether you don't drink or you don't smoke or you don't eat chocolate. It's a choice in life that you choose not to have in your life, and if it's better for you and your family and that, people shouldn't judge you. So how do you find it? I mean, it's not down here on your list, but how do you find it when you say people you don't drink?
A big difference between groups of people that I meet. Some people are Absolutely. They are on a similar journey as me. They have been rock bottom. They made their own choices and said, no, thank you very much. Enough is enough. Some of them have had parents who were raving alcoholics and saw how bad that was. So there are a lot of people there who open up to you like that. And because they know my story, they share a little bit of their story. So these people, of course, would never say anything against it, against me not drinking. Other people who are still very much on the bandwagon, who are still enjoying that life, they feel threatened. Because after all, as an alcoholic, you surround yourself with other people who drink, because then it becomes all normal. If you surround yourself with people who actually say, look, thank you very much, I have actually a green tea or something like that, well, you can't just keep downing your drinks. It doesn't feel right. So therefore, there's an automatic, a little bit of an antagonism there. Ooh, you bring it into my reality that I drink too much. How dare you, by you not drinking? And that's a bit of a strange psychology, but that is certainly happening. And that's what many alcoholics find when they become sober, when they go into recovery. They lose so-called friends. And my argument is always that these might not necessarily have been your friends. These were drinking partners who justified their own addiction with having you around. Or if you are one of these people who gets rather relaxed, maybe a bit too relaxed, so doing the stupid things that you become the clown for everyone else once you have had a bottle or two, well, then of course these people get a bit pissed off and you're no longer the clown. And when you're actually saying, well, actually, no, I refuse to be that person any longer. I actually want to be someone else. So these kind of people, they can be hard to deal with, but it is what it is. If someone gives me some sober shaming, then yeah, I don't even bother getting upset about it. It's thank you very much. Let's talk to someone else. There's so many beautiful people out there that I much rather talk to than someone who insists that I have to have this drink because otherwise things just don't work.
Yeah, and I think that I liked what you said there. They want you to drink for them, because it makes them feel better. And it's like anything in life. I know when I used to be a smoker. I haven't smoked for 30 odd years. And when I first quit smoking, everyone would try and give me a cigarette because it's like, yeah, no, you can't give up. You can't give up. You'll break. And it's like, it's hard when you have an addiction. Like I had an addiction to tobacco, and it's not easy, and it takes a hell of a lot of self awareness and inner strength to break any addiction, whether it's alcohol, whether it's cigarettes, whether it's drugs, whether it's chocolate, no matter gambling. An addiction is an addiction, and I think people need to, well, we don't need to, but if we looked at the whole thing behind the addiction, there's a much bigger problem, and that's what society should be addressing, the reasons and the pain and the whatever sits behind that for humans. I believe if we can teach that, if we can help people how to cope with their lives in much different ways, then we wouldn't have this social problem that we do have.
You're so right. You're so right. And you put it in beautiful words there. I think the problem is not the alcohol. The problem is not the marijuana. The problem is not whatever you sniff or swallow, etc. The problem is the trauma, the pain, the rejection, the childhood abuse, all those reasons that make you feel the pain. And the only thing you want to do is you want to get away from this pain. And then you go for the alcohol. And some people, they can have a drink or two and just relax a bit, and that's it. And they stop after 2 drinks. Now, people like me, and unfortunately people like many, many others out there, we are supermen and superwomen for that matter. We are just so good in our response in our brain, so that you take a little bit of alcohol and a huge amount of dopamine is released, and you become, wow, this is good. I love it. And if you are not part of that group of super responders, aka alcoholics, you will never experience that. It is, you think, yeah, okay, that tastes quite nice, and oh, nice aroma, okay, put it down. For an alcoholic, no. Ooh, nice aroma. Down it goes. And so on. It is, we are different. We are hardwired in a different way, some of us. And when I say some of us, the figures, no one really knows. But up to 50% of alcoholism is probably genetically predisposed. And what that means is you have got a number of genes that set you up to be far more likely to rely on alcohol in the long run, rather than dealing with your emotions and dealing with those things that would be so much better to be dealt with. So that is that. So there's the 50% of us who have got mommy and daddy to blame. But then at the same token, you have to understand that this is not a given, that just because you have got the genes, that you then become a raving alcoholic. Give you an example. I, thank you very much, have had all the genes. I can go back in my family and say, yeah, tick, 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 tick. Thank you very much, auntie. Thank you very much, everyone. I've got it. My sons will have it too. But it's probably very unlikely that they're going to be addicts, because they have seen my journey. They have seen where I've been and what I've become now. And they have learned from that. They have learned the coping mechanisms. They've learned to ask for help, that it's okay to not be okay. My youngest son, when he was 15 or so, he had problems at school. He himself took himself to the psychologist, and had chats with the nurse and with the psychologist about that, which is, wow, which 15-year-old does that? And mine did, because he saw where I've been. So despite the fact that he for sure has got a genetic predisposition, he will have learned coping mechanisms that many others will not learn until they are face down in the gutter.
Well, Stephan, I felt, and I always believed, that there was a some form of genetic thing that goes back, but coming from you and coming from a doctor, because you're qualified in the medical industry, now that's just pure gold for the people that are watching, for the viewers that are watching. So how do they know if there is a genetic link?
Well, if we could just do that one little gene test, and then we splice it all out and put a good one in there, and then we're going to be all fine. And I'm sure that one day someone will try to convince you with some clever tablets that this is possible. Unfortunately, it is not. The genetic code is such a complex thing, and there is not one single gene that you can blame. It is rather a number of genes that work together to give you this predisposition. There are so many other factors. For example, if you have the same genes and you're a man, it's maybe a bit different than when you're a woman. Because as a woman, you're far more likely to develop depression and problems along in the mental health spectrum there, anxiety, all these kind of things, which then make you, again, so much more likely to actually rely on the alcohol. You poor girls have got all kind of hormones flying around. Crikey. I mean, I thought I had it hard. And then to actually think what happens to a woman when she goes through the roller coaster of a menopause at a time when so many changes are happening for her in her life, when they're typically at the pinnacle of their career, when they're working like stupid left, right, and center, and then suddenly their body changes and everything else changes, and it would be so easy to then go for a glass of wine, because when you're in your career at that time, you have the money, you can actually afford to buy yourself a good bottle of wine, and you can justify that red wine is healthy for the heart. I'm sure I read somewhere a study there, and therefore if one glass is good, probably a bottle is even better. There you go. And it is that kind of pitfall. We have got the social engineering, the $1 trillion industry of marketing that hits us subliminally around the ears every minute you're watching television, every time you're looking at some influencers podcast or film, video, etc. It is out there, and we are getting led by our noses. Really, we are manipulated to the nth degree.
Yeah, and I think it's a bigger problem these days than what it used to be. Like when I was a child, the pubs, I can remember, I'm showing my age here, that I can remember my dad used to go to the pub and it used to shut at 6 o'clock, and you could only buy takeaway beer for certain hours, and you couldn't get it. Now, we've got clubs that are open 24/7. We've got bottle shops in supermarkets, and it's everywhere. And, growing up for me as a child, I never ever saw my father drunk once. And it wasn't until he was in his 70, he turned 70, and that was the first time I'd seen him drunk, because it was his 70th birthday and he loved his red wine. And it took, all those years to actually see my dad drunk, and because he didn't want, it was just, I think his father had issues with alcohol as well. Like you, he'd seen it, and never. I'm sure he got drunk more than what I'd seen. But that's my memory growing up. Is he'd go to the pub on a Friday night for a couple of hours, have a few beers. We'd get some fish and chips when we picked him up, and some lollies, and that was his treat. That was his treat. We'd go to the pub, and now and again he'd buy 2 bottles of beer. Whereas now you buy a carton. Or you buy a pallet.
But you also say that it's beautiful how you described it, because it was part and parcel of life, and it still very much is in certain industries. And if you are in a high-powered position, then of course you close deals with a drink. Or if you go out, the Japanese culture, as an example, is very wet as far as business is concerned. It is normal to go to a karaoke bar there and get drunk. The same for police, the same for emergency responders. Please, when I was in nursing homes and junior doctors' halls, it's very wet. Well, it certainly was very wet when I was there. It is part and parcel of a culture and is considered norm. And you are actually, you in some areas of our lives, in certain high-driven places, let's say big business deals, etc. If you do not drink, you're actually clearly at a disadvantage.
Oh yes, yes, I totally agree with you there. Having worked in the corporate world 10 years ago, totally understand that and totally believe in that, because if you're shamed into it, and you must, if you want to climb that ladder, you've got to be one of the boys or one of the girls. And it's something that I believe in business. It needs to stop. But it takes courage to say no and stand in the truth of who you are. And a lot of people are starting to do that as the next lot of generation comes through. I believe that they will do that. Some of my best business decisions are made with a glass of wine sitting out by the pool. I've made some bad ones too.
Yeah, but they all looked really, really good at the time of making. Yeah,
and they did. I would say I've made more good than bad. But yeah, and it's always sort of like when I'm relaxed, as you said, relaxed, sitting there Friday afternoon, glass of wine, had a swim in the pool. Yeah, and it's just our culture. But what I do find, summertime I drink more than what I do in wintertime because it's just too damn cold to drink.
see, that's where the Germans have invented the Glühwein or the mulled wine. So we don't have that excuse. We can drink all year round.
That's awesome. So you've got one of the questions that you offered to answer for me was, where is the best place to hide a bottle? Like, I mean, alcoholics hide, and they hide their bottles, and I know they do. I know this from personal experience of somebody that I know. They hide their bottles, and yeah, it's interesting.
It is. I think that the reality of being an alcoholic, it's an incredibly busy life. You are going out and you're hiding that you buy the alcohol. Then you're hiding that you're drinking the alcohol. Then you're hiding that you're drunk. Then you're hiding the evidence that you have been drunk. Then you're hiding the hangover the next day. I mean, you're busy. You're out there, busy. So hiding is our perfect game, and it is amazing. It is. I remember the first day in rehab, and you arrive there and you're basically shell shocked. I mean, for crying out loud, you know your life will change. And on my intake on that day, 3 other women came with me in, and all 4 of us, we had a problem with alcohol. And we were all around about the same age, and we were sort of looking at each other and didn't really know what to say. And soon it became this, oh, tell me a bit about you. And then came very cheeky questions. You're comparing the blood values of your liver, how bad they are. Oh, yours is that? Oh no, mine is much worse. And then the bottle, where it's really becomes a game. Who can tell you the best place to hide a bottle of vodka? Because it's bizarre. That's what you do. That's as alcoholics here. That is sort of part of the first time in your life admitting that you have got a problem. That you're actually coming out there and say, yes, I have been hiding my bottles because I didn't want my family to see. And yeah, it's as alcoholics, we haven't got the biggest brain power. Let's put it like that. So many of us will have stopped drinking 2 years later, maybe moved house, and suddenly you find 3 bottles of half open vodka lying here and there that you had hidden, and then you forgot where you hidden it. So you actually never drank them. In my case, I was renovating a house when I hit rock bottom, and my wife had organized a rehab for me. So she told me on a Tuesday, enough is enough. Friday, you're getting admitted into a hospital up in Auckland. And at that time, I had renovated the kitchen, and so I went into rehab. And when my wife got some builders in who were finishing the work that I had started, one of the builders was trying to put some lamps into the ceiling, and he reached into the hole that was cut there, and suddenly he had a bottle of vodka in his hand. He looked at the vodka, looked at my wife. What the hell? That is how crazy we are as alcoholics. We are hiding things. It's a disease that we want to keep in the darkness. And it's very, very, it's strange. That's the thing I have to say. So if you recognize yourself out there as someone who knows quite a few places where his wife or the partner doesn't find the alcohol, let's talk.
Yeah, because what a perfect person to talk to that can understand them and help them and have been where they are without any judgment. Because when you hit rock bottom, and there's only one way to go, and that's up. And I admire people that do that, whether they're alcoholics or whether they're drug addicts, gambling, all sorts of addictions. It helps, whether it's sex addiction, porn addiction. It's everything. There's something that you're not getting. And I used to say to myself, I believe that it was the love of the high, love of the chase, love of the feeling, that underneath that there's a lack of love behind addiction, because you love the taste and you love how it makes you feel. So it's that love aspect of life that you're missing.
But remember also, it is work on that and explore that further. There is a beautiful experiment that I've forgotten the gentleman's name. They used rats. And the rats had the choice between water and heroin. And the water with heroin was always actually quite nice for the rats. Thank you very much. After a while, they didn't go to the normal water. They went straight for the heroin water. Now, the same people then thought, maybe that is a bit artificial what we're doing here. Why don't we create a theme park for rats? And let's put other rats in there so they can have fun with their friends, run around and climb things and eat things, and then give them the choice between water and heroin water. Guess what? The moment the rats had a good life, the moment they were out there, connected, had a good time, they chose the water every time over the heroin water. So.
Yeah. I've heard this. I've heard this before, and it does come down to where we are, human connection, friends, all of that. And we've just all come out of this lockdown with COVID, and it's questioned my mind, because there's, in some countries, it's crossed my mind, not questioned it. There's been total lockdown where people who have got addictions, all types of addiction, can't get to their fix or what they've needed. And it's because the industry that I work in, it's like, wow, what are we where are these people? What are they doing? What emotions are they going through? Who's out there helping them? It would have been and still is in some areas of the world, a horrendous situation for these people to be in. And their families.
So true. So true. And that is why we have seen a rise in family harm incidences, in aggression out there. There's no doubt about it. And I know from people I know who look after people on the street and who look after drug addicts. There has been a lot of cases. There have been many cases of withdrawal where people ended up in trouble. That can be, of course, a huge thing for someone. It can also be a wake-up call. Sometimes we have to hit rock bottom, and sometimes a spanner has to be thrown into the works for you to stop and for you to step back and think, what am I doing here? That is, if you work your 16 hours in the corporate world and then go out drinking and then answer emails at midnight and then wake up at 4 o'clock because you can't sleep anymore and be worried about what was the best email you have ever regretted sending when you were pissed. Okay, so there is, that kind of life, and suddenly COVID comes and everything comes to a standstill, and it gives you the first time for a long time to actually step back and maybe take a deep breath. And that happened to some of the people I know, that they suddenly realized how much they were dependent on their alcohol and on that particular way of coping. And I've equally then, after 4 weeks of our quarantine, coming back to work, in my theaters, the staff with me, many of them were actually saying, wow, this was such a beautiful experience. When was the last time I've had 4 weeks of holiday? When was the last time I spent some time with my family? You were talking about love, that the love is missing. And suddenly people had the chance actually to spend that time with their little bubble that they had created. Admittedly, if someone you love is outside of that bubble, then you were in trouble here. But still, you could actually do a lot of things to work on yourself and to get a realization. So this is one of the times in our generation probably where we can look back and say, wow, in some cases it made us, in many cases it will break us, but one way or the other, the life that we know is certainly changing with COVID, and it's certainly it shatters illusions. It shatters it forces people to drop the mask in front of their face and look at what is really going on. And I think that is so important.
Oh, it is, Stephen, and Stephan. I want to call you Stephen. I'm so
That's
sorry.
all good. That's all good. I answer to many things.
I'm sure you do. So do I. Just don't call me late for dinner. And I agree with what you said about the COVID. I believe that it's come up for all these areas in humanities that needs to be looked at, all the darkness inside self, and it's been an amazing opportunity for each and every single human being to either rise up out of it or sink further down in it. And it's like we've got this choice: we can either rise and be more than what we are, or we will sink lower and continue to go down that path. But the way that, if you really truly take the masks off, it's all about stripping off the mask. But if we take the masks off of the planet and we truly have a look with 2020 vision, and this is what 2020 is all about, is 2020 vision. And what I tell people, and they say, well, it was all about the Great Awakening, and it's about this spiritual awakening and this and that. And I've got very, very big spiritual beliefs. But 2020 is all about the 2020 vision for us to truly see what's happening in the world, and us as human beings to step up and go, hey, I'm here to help. I want to change the planet. What can I do? What part can I play? Even if it's in my own little tiny little world, and not doing what we're doing, because I know you've got your own podcast and YouTube channel to make that difference and help people that have been down your path. But we've all got that choice, and we've all can create that change in our own little bubble or our own little world, and touch the lives of people around us.
We're leaving a legacy with that, and that is such a beautiful, beautiful thing. When I was drunk and doing my things, I don't think I left a legacy. I was sort of barely hanging in there. And nowadays I'm able to touch people's lives. And this is a beautiful thing. And I so hope that both you and I will continue to have this chance by talking to interesting people, by listening to their stories, and then helping others to see. It just takes one little side sentence sometimes where you think, whoa, that is actually quite profound. Whoa, I didn't think about that. And suddenly it keeps going. It's like planting a seed, and you never know who is listening when. And this seed might not grow immediately. It might grow in a month, 2 months, 6 months time. But then, boy, oh boy, once it breaks through the concrete and it starts growing, hopefully there is a new person out there who is changing their life. And then again, it's the snowball effect. If that person then touches 3 lives, wow, God, maybe we can really actually make something out of this world. Maybe we can make this world better. Would that not be something?
Oh, that'd be awesome. And we've got Christine's has written, thanks, Stephen, for sharing your experience with us today. Her daughter's going through this at the moment. So we've touched one life.
Beautiful.
But what I'd like to ask you is, what was it like for your wife? We've got people out there that may be dealing with partners who are alcoholics or have addictions, or family members. What was it like for them, and what can they do? Is there anything that they can do to help their loved ones?
Very much so. Oh goodness. She, first of all, when we were younger, when we got together and then emigrated and did everything together, we were both drinking like fishes. And we considered it a lovely lifestyle. We made our own wine. So it was the warmest place in Auckland where we were was actually in the toilet. So we had this big barrel of wine that was maturing there. And you would sit in the lounge and you have a glass of wine. Then you go with the glass to the toilet, pee, fill the wine back up, and then come back out. So you can imagine you watch a film or two, you have no idea how much you've drunk. This might have been 7 glasses or 8 or whatever. So, and she was very much part of that lifestyle. So initially, we were probably quite codependent. We were probably not necessarily helping each other. And we both went through hard times there. At some stage, my wife has had it, and she stopped drinking herself. And she stopped it the hard way by not going through rehab, but she rather found religion. She found her church, and that has helped her tremendously. But I described it in my book as white knuckling it, and she had great difficulties with me describing her like that. What I really wanted to say was that she did not get all the psychological counseling, the hard work that I did through the 12-step program. She was not privileged to go through that. She had snippets because she saw herself a counselor, but it was probably very little compared with the 4 weeks of transformation that I went through. And that was clear when I came home, because I came home with all these new ideas and I was a changed man. And I thought everyone is now celebrating me. And yes, we all going to be changed people. Well, when I came home, there was the same shit happening there because they had not moved on. They didn't know how daddy would be when he comes home. They had no idea about that. So there was this disconnect between the person who I suddenly was and the person that they sort of expected. So it was all a bit of a strange dynamic there. And I think that was a time then when words don't really matter, because we alcoholics, we lie. How do you know that an alcoholic is lying? Well, his lips are moving. So it is unfortunately the fact that my family has heard it all. So the only way that I could convince them that I was actually getting better was by living it. So uh, a boy talks, a man acts. So that is really what you do, is you show your sobriety by your actions, and by the actions when no one is watching, which is then called integrity. And that is what you learn to build up. So that is the journey that I had. Now, as far as me still being in active addiction, and now thinking of my wife who had tried to get me out of that, it must have been hell for her. And it is hell for anyone out there who is in that position. There is no easy answer, because if the addict is still in this addiction mind frame, he will keep going. She will keep going and going and going, unless you address the underlying problems, unless you deal with the pain, deal with the underlying driving forces that lead to the addiction, you will lose. So you can white knuckle it and say, okay, I will now no longer drink. And maybe even your partner might get to that. He might say, I will not drink. Rest assured, within a few weeks or months, there will be another addiction. So this person will move on to, you name it, gambling, sex, uh, you name it, any kind of benzodiazepines, any painkillers, anything else, because the underlying problem is not addressed. So therefore, if you are a loved one and you're in this hell of seeing someone being far less than the person actually could be, I think that the key would be to work with that person and find out what is the driving force. And it can be sometimes bloody hard to figure that out. In my case, there was, for example, quite an element of PTSD there, that I had not recognized how under the surface important it was. And it just, by accident, I stumbled across it. And I was always wondering why I had this hero complex and had to help others. And then, well, when you actually figure out that, yes, you were the victim of gang violence when you were a teenager and your life was forever changed this way. Suddenly, it clicked all together and said, well, maybe it was not the positive event that I made out of it, the event that made me strong. You have all these mental constructs there. No, I actually had to deal with it. I had to deal with the fear. I had to deal with the PTSD, the anxiety, the hyperarousal, the waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning, the constantly being ready. Now, that can be a good thing, to be constantly ready. But if you're ready in a calm and relaxed state, that is me today. When I was drinking, it was not ready. It was jittery. It was the negative version of that.
Fight and flight, I like to call it. The bottom, fight and flight syndrome.
So true. Absolutely.
And the bottom of the Maslow triangle, it's all about survival. And if we haven't had that, it's a basic human need. We need to feel safe. We want to feel safe.
Absolutely. So in my case, the PTSD was there. In other people, it will be childhood trauma. This might be psychological, emotional, it might be sexual. There are all kind of things that they will have buried under mountains of excuses and other things. And it can be very, very hard to address these things, and can be extremely hard for the addict to recognize that this is what is going on. They think in their own little strange world that everything is all right. No, they are doing just fine. I'm holding down a job. After all, I feed my family. Everything is all right. The sheer fact that I punch holes into walls left, right, and center. Well, that's just daddy having a hard day. Yeah, no. Okay. So there is so much there. It is, as a loved one, try to help the person you love. Don't see him as the nasty piece of shit that he probably sometimes is, and she sometimes is. Don't just see the bad times. Let me put it like that. If you walk along the street and you see $100 note in the gutter that's full of mud and full of crap, you will still pick it up and you clean it off, and there's a $100 note and has its value and it's beautiful. It's the same with some of us. We are in the gutter. We don't look so pretty, but we still have got very much a value. And if we can just find that, if we can just put a shower over us and get the crap off us, that would be so nice, wouldn't it?
It would be, Stephen, but I guess for me, as I said to you, I've got a son who's been down the drug problem. There comes a point on the other side of it, whether it's a parent, whether it's a loved one, where you can do all you can, and at times you have to let them go, because you've got to think of yourself and your own mind and your own life, and that.
Absolutely.
It's okay you can try and put that hose over people for a lot, and then it's not until they say, I need help, that it happens and you can see the good in them, but it's because of all this stuff that they've built up and they've done in their own anger and their own whatever, that sometimes, especially as women have to step away and go, I can't deal with the violence for the safety of my children.
Beautiful. And you just said it exactly right, because you need to put yourself first. That is something that I learned, that I didn't learn until rehab. I was always there for everyone else first, and my patients and everyone else. And I didn't look after myself. And that is, for me, they were not there were bad consequences, but there was no violence impacting on me. Yet, if you are in an abusive relationship, if you're in a relationship where the frustration, pain, resentment of the person that you love is then taking out on you in the sense of physical violence, bloody hell, this is the line that you need to draw. This is the line where you need to seek help for yourself first. You need to help yourself. And when you're in an aeroplane and there's an emergency, the oxygen comes down. What is the lesson? You put it on yourself first before you help others. Well, that's the same in addiction. You need to protect yourself first, and then help the person in need.
Yes.
Now, sorry, if you wanted to say something
No,
now.
no. Please.
There are, however, if you think it through, there are so many people out there who are actually in the same boat as you. So if our discussion here very much hits a point with you, there are actually groups out there, for example, Al-Anon, that's anonymous, Alcoholics Anonymous, but for the people that suffer, that the relatives that are not alcoholics that have to live with that person. So these are groups where like-minded people come together and maybe support each other, maybe learn from each other, maybe give a woman the push that she needs to leave that husband, because she might not see how close she is to real serious physical harm or even death. So there are some very brutal stories out there, and these women are often trapped in that. And maybe by just coming to such a meeting, sharing the real you, what is really going on in your life, someone else might support you the way that you really need it.
Yeah, and I think to Stephan, there's also men that are living in domestic violence with alcoholic wives as well, and it's just this violence isn't just on women; it is also happens to men, which isn't spoken about. That is very much put in the cupboard. If there's any men out there who are going through have their wives are alcoholics and they are violent, there's help out there. Reach out to somebody, because you're just as important as any woman, because we're at the end of the day we're all humans and we all need to feel safe.
So true. I couldn't. You spoke out of my heart there. No, life is too short, guys. Please figure out who you want to be when you grow up, and that even works when you're 70. Okay, so for the listeners who have been around for a little while, it doesn't matter that what your real age is. Who cares? Figure out the life that you want to live and dream it. Then feel it, taste it, see it in front of your eyes, and make it so real that you can't do anything else than actually move towards it. And take little steps, little baby steps. Don't do crazy stuff. Okay, I resign from my job and I want to go to a Nepalese mountain and find a guru there. Doesn't probably work out so well. But how about you figure out that sleep is your major problem? How about you figure out a few steps, how you look really into your life and figure out, okay, the sleep, what do we do here really? Okay, maybe it's not so clever that I have coffee at 10 o'clock at night and then be on my device without a screen protector, so to speak, for until midnight. Yeah, maybe. Okay, so suddenly you work on the sleep and you made that little step. Then you say, well, actually, I listened to this dude and he was saying sort of with the alcohol and maybe the 3 bottles of wine every night is maybe a touch much. So, well, maybe, just maybe, measure out your bottle into glasses. And tomorrow, instead of 3 bottles, you do 2 bottles and minus 1 glass. And then the next day, why don't you do 3 bottles minus 2 glasses? And so on, and so on. Not big steps, but by the time you've blinked, You are actually no longer vomiting in the morning and dry retching, and you actually are suddenly a relatively nice person compared with the bear with a headache that normally was walking around the house around about 8 in the morning. So all these little things, do little steps, but decide where you want to be and go for it. Life is too short.
Yeah, and I'd like to close with Stephen. I was very impressed with when you said that if you don't get the help for the cause of the addiction, that you go on to something else. And you see that, and when you people that they'll either do exercise or become an addiction, or there'll be something else. There's always something to replace it. Always, if anyone is listening tonight, and it's with anything, the fundamental core problems of why we cannot truly be our true authentic self is because we hide behind all these masks. Even if you don't have an alcohol problem, if you don't have an addiction problem, you'll still have something in your life that can't get you to that next level, because you're hiding, you're not being yourself. Do the inner work. It all comes down to inner work, and some of us don't mask our inner work that we hide behind with alcohol or other things. But there will be something that you do. It could be lack of self-confidence. It could be anger. It could be anything. Do your inner work, guys, and you'll all be the amazing, authentic beings that you came here to be. And without the masks. And when we connect our physical self to our spiritual self, we stand in the truth of who we are. And it's our physical stuff that stops us from being who we are. As Stephen has spoken about tonight, that's why we have alcoholism. That's why we have drugs. That's why we have all these addictions on the planet. That's why we have so much anger. There's lack of self-love. It's because we've come here to master physicality, but we hide behind so many masks. And one of them tonight, Stephen has so greatly and shared with us, and it's been such an honor to have him on the show tonight. Love to have you back, Stephen, and talk a little bit more about alcoholism and how it can affect people. But more importantly, I think next time what I'd like to talk to you is your steps, let's go from this is where you were, your book's out next week, and let's put a positive spin on it. On how amazing life can be and how amazing your life is. And if everybody spoke about it and came out of the closet, that their life would be very, very different.
I'm in. So, why don't you see what the response of your viewers is? They might have some questions. And if the gods want to, then we two come together again and continue this beautiful journey. Let's make our world a little bit better, one interview at a time.
Cool. I'm going to drop you out and bring me up. So just stay with me because I'll chat with you before we finish. So everyone, I hope you enjoyed tonight's show. I certainly learned a lot. It's so refreshing to speak to somebody that's not only gone through something, but has got scientific background, a doctor that spoke to us tonight on his problems, his journey. And I know there's so many of you out there that would have got something out of it, because every single family is touched by some point by addiction, whether it's alcohol, like I said, gambling, porn, sex, cigarettes, marijuana, heroin. There's addiction, gym addiction, whatever it is, we're all touched by it. And when we understand the fundamentals that sit behind it, we can create change on our planet. Until next week, I'm Sandra Meehan, and I look forward to seeing you next week on Vino and Chat. Bye for now.